they always said I'm wrong, but what they doing today? I think they want me gone, but I ain't going away. They told me I was wrong, but look at my ass today. Da 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 da.
Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim Kelly. This is The Real Sports Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe if you have not been here before, and check out therealsportstalk.com. Tim Tebow is back in the headlines, and it isn't because he's starting. It's because numerous of his teammates today, in a report that came out, I believe early this morning or late last night, from Manish Mehta. He covers the Jets. I believe his blog is called The Jets Stream. It's on the New York Daily News. Does a good job. I've talked with him a few times. Nice guy. Hopefully someday we'll get him on the show. I tried to get him on to discuss this, but he's obviously very busy with the report, because when you have a big report, you have to kind of do follow-up for a day or two. So he's done a nice job there. The report basically said a few of Tim Tebow's teammates anonymously said that Tim Tebow's a terrible quarterback. One said that Tim Tebow, we have to stick with Mark Sanchez because we have no other option on this team. There was another guy that said you can't blame Mark Sanchez because we have such a bad receiving core in this team, which is true. And then there was another guy who talked about, and he went by his name. I forget what his name was. He's a defensive lineman for the Jets. He basically said Tim Tebow brings a nice option as a rusher, but he's not a quarterback. He didn't exactly say that, but he said the part about rushing. And essentially, they didn't say anything that anyone who actually watched Tim Tebow last year didn't know. We know that Tim Tebow cannot really pass. And people can say all they want that, well, the Jets got to give him a chance. They got to let him learn how to pass. You don't learn how to pass in the NFL. When you're in the NFL, you've made it because of what you've been good at. And Tim Tebow was a decent passer in college who was a much bigger threat because he had the ability to run. In the NFL, he has the ability to run, but that only goes so far as a quarterback. You need to be able to throw, and Tim Tebow, quite honestly, cannot do that. When his career best game is a game where he completed 10 passes, that shows you how he is not able to pass. Rex Ryan responded to this today in a press conference in which he basically said he will not allow this to divide the team. The Jets are 3-6 at this point. They're basically done. But what this report says to me is basically that no matter how bad the Jets get, Tim Tebow will not be put in as the starting quarterback. Because if that many people, I think it was 12 people were part of this report, if that many people on the team feel that way, you know that A, they're not the only ones that think that, and B, the higher-ups probably aren't thinking too differently because they're seeing the same things that the players see, and players tend to be a lot more encouraging of teammates than head coaches do, or they have a different perspective. Usually they feel that the player is better than how the coach feels. That's something I've noticed from playing sports. So if the players feel that way, the coach must have an even stronger opinion, which that to me takes it even higher up, because if Rex Ryan really does not feel very high on Tim Tebow, then that must mean Rex Ryan was never really a fan of bringing Tim Tebow in the first place. They brought in Tony Sparano as offensive coordinator. They sold you that, oh, he's going to be here for Wildcat sets only. And that's actually been true, apparently, at least according to Rex Ryan. Mike Tannenbaum, on the other hand, how did you think you were going to be able to bring in a guy in Tim Tebow and not have this become a distraction? And it's become a distraction, not that it's really changed anything that's happened on the field, but it has become a distraction because Mark Sanchez is looking over his shoulder. Now, he's been horrendous nonetheless, but he's looking over his shoulder. Tim Tebow is just kind of left in that awkward position. And because I'm saying this, it doesn't mean I dislike Tim Tebow as a person. I'm just being realistic about his ability on the field. So if Rex Ryan didn't really want him, then that to me goes up to Mike Tannenbaum, the GM, who, if you brought him in and you knew that Rex Ryan was not going to make that work, that this team had no intention of replacing Mark Sanchez with Tim Tebow, then why did you do it? Because Tim Tebow, I believe, is the most popular player in sports right now. Either Tim Tebow or this guy LeBron James, or there's a few other people. But if you bring in a character as polarizing as Tim Tebow, and you expect that he's just going to sit on the bench while things go bad and fans aren't going to call for him, then you were kidding yourself. And quite honestly, if you felt like as the Jets you weren't going to get in a situation this year, even if you ended up being like a 10-6 team, if you weren't going to get in a situation that Tim Tebow that fans were going to be chanting for Tim Tebow, you were kidding yourself, because even when Mark Sanchez has taken this team to AFC title games, he hasn't performed all that well. There's been parts of the season where you've just said, this guy doesn't have it, and he doesn't have it. But I don't think Tim Tebow does either. And if Woody Johnson and Mike Tannenbaum, the GM, decided that they were going to bring Tim Tebow in, even though they knew he probably wasn't going to get used, then all it was going to be was to make money and be a distraction, and that's exactly what it has done. You see a lot of Tim Tebow Jets jerseys out there, and you don't see a lot of performance out there on the field from any of the quarterbacks or from any of this team. This team has been an absolute disaster. They're 3-6. They might as well be 0-9, because that's the type of season we're going to remember this as. And I get to the feeling now where if everyone in the locker room is saying this, not only do I think Mike Tannenbaum should be out as GM, but I think that the coaching staff, including Rex Ryan, needs to go. And that's tough, because Rex Ryan, his dad Buddy's a legend here in Philly, and Rex Ryan I really enjoyed. Even though I'm not a huge Jets guy, I really enjoyed watching Rex Ryan there the first 2 years. I liked that he was cocky. I know that a lot of media members didn't. I did. And I enjoyed watching the Jets have success because I enjoyed Rex Ryan. I enjoyed for the first few years when Thomas Jones was there, when they ran the ball. And it worked, unlike how it does now. When they had a great defense led by Bart Scott and Darrelle Revis. It was fun to watch for the first few years. And you felt like Mark Sanchez probably came out of college a year too early, but at some point he'll probably hit his stride. So Rex Ryan's going to be in this for a long haul. He has a chance to be one of the next great coaches. And things have just fallen apart over the last 2 years. I tend to think that he will not be back next year. I don't know that for a fact, but I tend to think that. And as a coach, I think the fact that Rex Ryan stuck with Mark Sanchez past last year and continues to do it this year, even though I don't think Tim Tebow gives you a great chance to win, just the fact that you don't make a change for symbolic reasons, even go to the third-string quarterback, Greg something, I can't think of his last name, but even go to him, it just kind of, and the fact that you have all these guys in your locker room speaking this negatively when nothing positive could have come out of it, kind of says that maybe the coach has lost the locker room. And what I've come to the conclusion about Rex Ryan is that maybe he is just a good head coach. He's a great defensive coordinator and just a good head coach. And he's the type of guy whose style only works in a place as long as you're successful. But if you have any little part of your season that is not successful, Rex Ryan's style begins to be tuned out, because people stop taking him seriously. And it wears you down. Predicting Super Bowls every year, at some point, if you don't do it, then it just means nothing. And if you continue to predict Super Bowls every year, even if you are winning them, people really don't care because they expect you to do it. So I think Rex Ryan's probably going to have to go. I think Mike Tannenbaum's going to have to go. Obviously, the whole rest of the head coaching staff has to go. Mark Sanchez and Tim Tebow might as well both go at this point, because Mark Sanchez has run his course there, and Tim Tebow, I don't know why he was brought in, but it has not worked, and they need to send him someplace where he can be successful, I guess. But the problem with doing that is I don't see a team that would. Why would you want Tim Tebow, realistically? Because he had that brief success with the Broncos. A lot more of it had to do with the success of his overall team, how well Willis McGahee was playing, how well Matt Prater was kicking, how well Von Miller and Brian Dawkins had that defense playing. But he did have some success. He ran the 2-minute drill extremely well, which he should if he's a great running quarterback. But did anyone really believe that had longevity? Anyone realistically believe that? Because I do remember some people saying, oh, you should have kept Tim Tebow over Peyton Manning, and I just laughed because I felt like Tim Tebow's not a franchise quarterback. He had some moderate success, but he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. And the bottom line is that Tebow Mania, the farthest that went, was the divisional round in the playoffs. Tony Romo's been there too. I don't think anyone cut him any slack, so I don't know why you would cut Tim Tebow that slack. I know he didn't have the years to do it there, but in the end, it felt like they topped out what they were going to be able to do with Tim Tebow last year, and they decided to go in the Peyton Manning direction, which is obviously paying dividends for them now. But they traded in the Jets. It's been a controversy. It's been a distraction. And what have they really gotten out of it? Nothing. And I feel like it's going to be the same way if he goes to any other team. If he goes to a really bad team and gets a chance to start, it's not going to be pretty because they're just not going to be productive. If he goes to a good team, then it's just going to be a distraction because people are going to be waiting for Tim Tebow. The only place I can really see it working is a place like New England where you know the starting quarterback's staying in and you know there's a strong head coach there and there's just no concerns. I don't know. I think Tebow Mania after one season pretty much it's done, and that might be it for Tim Tebow. I don't know. I may be wrong. I think Rex Ryan, Mike Tannenbaum are out at this point. I think the Jets locker room is a mess, and the rest of the season, if you're a New York Jets fan, is not going to be fun to watch.
Just a little ways around the corner from fear. Be there, next year, where I'm going.